Welcome back, everybody. I'm super excited to have a conversation with Nicolas this week. Nicolas, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great. Let's kick it off with the famous one-word open. So if you could tell the audience right now, what's one word you could use to describe how you're feeling in this moment, what would that be?
Energized.
Excellent. Very good. Let's go take the next few minutes. If you could share with me and the audience a little bit about your background, a little bit about your business, and how you started it, where you are at today, and where you're heading towards, that would be great.
Sure. I'm the co-founder of Chili Piper. It's actually my fifth startup. As you can hear, I'm French. I came to the US in the mid-90s to go to Stanford Business School. I knew nothing about tech. A classmate of mine arranged a gathering with Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs sat on the floor and at the time complained that his company Next was going next to nowhere. But it was super inspiring, and that changed my career. I decided I would be a tech entrepreneur. So from that moment until today, I've been a tech entrepreneur. I've done 5 different companies, some successful, some didn't succeed. I was hit by the dot bomb back in 2000. So, it's been quite a ride. Now Chili Piper is a company I started with my wife. So we are husband and wife founders. And like what people expect, she's a techie and I'm the sales guy.
Very cool. I can't wait to dive in deeper about what you do and stuff in a few minutes here. So share with us now, the pandemic impacted all of us.
Yeah. I
would love to hear how you pivoted and came through the other side much better than before, because, business will never be conducted the same post-pandemic, right? Or during pandemic, as we're still in it right now. But, just tell us what you went through, and then, how you pivoted. That'd be great.
Yeah, well, it was very unusual for us, because when we started the company with Alina is from Romania and I'm French. And so we had this belief that there are smart people, talented people everywhere in the world. And Alina and I also love traveling. So we had this belief that people should work from wherever they want. So when we started, we hired a guy in Bucharest, a guy in Kiev, and a guy in Lviv. And we started the company completely remote. And we've kept growing that way. So it's 2016 when we started. So we were remote and distributed before COVID made it fashionable. So when that happened, there was no impact for us. So now we've grown to 220 employees. We are in 185 cities in 40 countries. We're in countries that I barely knew existed, like North Macedonia, and, Kosovo, and Chile. I knew of Chile, but we're all over the place. So from the organization standpoint, we were COVID resilient when COVID happened. From the business standpoint, our customers, that was very different. So we had companies like Remote Year, like travel companies, that completely shut down. So all of a sudden, they completely disappeared. So we lost a whole bunch of our companies. And what we did at the time, I had some angel investors, and they say, "Look, you have to cut staff." And I said, I'm not cutting staff. We've hired these people. They're smart. We're going to try to surf the wave. So we did this payroll protection program from the federal state. We took money from there. That's how we held together. We obviously stopped hiring, but did not do any layoff. And we focused on companies that are still in business during the pandemic. Fortunately for us, a lot of our customers are SaaS companies, so software as a service companies, and that you still need software to operate your business. So they were less affected, and we focused on them. So that's the pivot we did. We changed our targets of companies. We looked at companies that were still doing well during COVID, and we focused on them. And that worked really well for us, Tony. We ended up continuing growing. March 2020 is when I took this payroll protection program, and we were really, as I mentioned, I did a company that in 2000 that was victim of the market going down, and I thought shit is going to happen again. And we took, we're cautious, and we went through it, coming out of it stronger.
Very good. Thanks for sharing that with us and giving us an insight into how you were able to pivot. It's been difficult for a lot of companies, and we're all dealing with this still. So, with that said, can you share with us a recent win that you had in your company? That's something that was remarkable that happened in your business that you consider a big W, and then tell us what was your
Yeah.
takeaway from that?
Yeah. So it's relatively recent. It's a year after we started the company. It was 2016. By then, it's 7 of us in the company. And we built that solution. I'm going to say what the solution is because otherwise people won't get enough context. Chili Pepper solves a very simple problem. When people come to a website and they're interested in your business, there's typically a form that they fill out. Say, I'd like to talk to a salesperson, or I'd like to see a demo, or I'd like to get in contacted. They submit the form and they get a page that says, thank you, somebody is going to call you. And then they wait and they wonder who's going to call me. And companies lose half their pipeline in that process because they don't call back in time, people disappear. So we've built this intelligent system that upon form submission, make sure that the person is qualified, retrieve the calendar of all the salespeople and route to the right calendar. And so the next step, the prospect can click a time and book, and the booking happens in one click, and it's done in real time. So now instead of getting a thank you page, you get a set of options of times, you pick one and you're done. And of course, we improved tremendously the conversion rates. We actually typically double conversion rates. So that's something we invented, not immediately when we started the company. We started with something slightly different, but in 2017. And here we are, we have no customer, it's 7 of us. We bootstrapped, we are on our own cash. And I tried to reach out to Facebook to become a customer. Right? And I know somebody, and I tried to work my way. I still remember I started calling Paola in Italy, who was at Facebook, and she hooked me up with somebody in London, with somebody. So, you work your way, you hustle. Next thing, I get on a real meeting with marketing executive at Facebook, and I explain what we do and says, that seems great. That's what I think we need it. We're going to start testing it. And they bring people, and every meeting we had with them, they had more people in the room than we had in the company. They bring like 10 people with 7 of us. And in the end, we keep going, and then it's going well. And then I go to procurement, and procurement said, okay, we Facebook, so you have to give us a deal. And I say, we do no discount at Chili Pepper. We have a policy, 0 discount. And they go, yes, but we Facebook. And I said, well, yes, but we Chili Pepper. That's what we do. And they send me they're keeping up the ladder of procurement, say, you must be dreaming. I stuck to my gun. And in the end, we did the deal with no discount, and we have no discount anywhere. So it was a big lesson that, if you've built something of value and you stick to your position, as long as the product is valuable, well, you can be smaller, you can be not willing to discount. The deal is going to go through as long as your product has value. So that's definitely a big W, as you would call it.
That is so cool. Out of all the people I've had on here, we're on episode 170 plus, whatever we're at. No one's ever had a cool story about the way they pitched. And of course, of all companies, Facebook. So that's really cool, man. Thanks for sharing that with us. Yeah. And I like what you said, stick with your guns, no matter how small you are. If you have something of value and there's not too much, why play the pricing concession game, right?
Exactly.
Very cool. Let's flip gears. Talk about a failure. Tell me a small failure that you had and how it happened and what you learned from that. That would be great too. So that way we can have the contrast between win and the failure.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, in the startup entrepreneurship, you have a lot more failures and successes and big wins. So it's like a tough one for me to pick one failure I'm going to talk about. But there's one that comes to mind that I think is particularly interesting. A couple of years ago, so Alina and I, my wife, have a lot of ideas. So we see problems and we always want to solve them. So a couple of years ago, we thought, you know what, the way the email inbox is done is not very good for salespeople. It's like the same. You use Outlook or Gmail. My mother used Gmail, and how come professionals use that for something that's so essential to their job? So we came up with a lot of good ideas to do a better email client. We call it Chili Inbox, so Chili Inbox. And we were super excited. By then we had investors. We told them, look, this is going to be a huge product. It's so useful and that. And when we went to market with it, we gave it to users. We did not get the reaction we were expecting. We expected to be people super excited, and people say, "Oh yeah, it's good, it's helpful," and that. But they would stop using it, right? They would always find something not quite right in that. And then what happened? I realized that to make any product a success in software, you have to go through iterations. You have to keep working on it, and that product was so new and different from what we did that we became concerned that it would become a distraction. That we putting all our energies educating the market with a new product, where in the meantime our core business needs to grow. And so it was fascinating. You hear a lot of people saying startups have to be focused. So we experienced that firsthand, because even though we had this great, what we thought, I think it's a great product, it was not in our main core business, and as a result, we were not able to give the attention that we deserve, and so we decided to completely shelve it and put it on hold and forget about it. But it was a big lesson, because we had spent some engineering cycles on it. We spent it was a big investment in dollars and in time to build this product, and you could say that we could have guessed it ahead of time, right? That if we build something that's different from what people expect from us, it's going to take more education. So that's when the failure comes to mind.
Thanks for sharing that with us. What about your point of view on company culture? You have a strong headcount and you're continuing to grow. What's your opinion about company culture when it comes to the top 3 attributes? So specifically, from your point of view, what are the 3 top attributes a company must have in order for it to come out, to result a awesome culture? What are those top 3 things?
So I love that question, because I think there's a revolution in the making in company culture. It comes from a combination of 2 things. One is COVID has opened people's eyes on what's possible. When I started, and people say, and I said my company is distributed all over the world, people say, you won't be able to scale. People thought it was impossible. And now I have a friend at Verizon who has 1,200 people working remotely in his team, and nobody thinks twice about it. So it has completely opened people's eyes. The other piece that's happening is that the labor market is in an unusual state of, things go in waves, but in a place where workers have the upper hand, right? There are more people looking for talent than talent looking for jobs, at least in the educated world. So the combination of the 2 make that every company has to completely change how they serve their employees, right? And at Chili Pepper, we have 3 key dimensions on the culture to answer your questions. The first one is we make it an environment as pleasant as possible, right? So we let them work from wherever they want, give them any equipment they want, and it's not about ping pong tables and suites. It's about real deep life. We have unlimited vacation, and for a while people thought, it's bullshit, people unlimited vacation, but it's not bullshit. Some people take 3 weeks and then they come back and they take another 2 weeks, and people take what they need, and it works really well. So the first one is completely different environment you've got to make it much more comfortable. The second thing is professional growth. We've built that in our culture. So everybody in our team has a goal on how they want to grow professionally, and we have hired coaches, internal coaches, to help them grow professionally. Even though it's only 200 of us, we already have coaches to help. So professional growth is something that has to become part of every company's culture. Otherwise, people will get bored and leave, right? And there are better opportunities. The third piece is something new. I think it's the future, but it's going to take a while. We're implementing it at Chili Pepper. It's based on a book called Nonviolent Communication. And have you heard of that book, Tony? You have. So the idea is that we human beings very often find ourselves in a situation where we get somewhat frustrated or things don't go our way, and we have the tendency to resort to violence. And by violence doesn't mean dropping a bomb. It means like saying something mean, or aggressive, or designed to hurt. And it's actually, we think that now, as you can tell from the crisis in Ukraine, violence has no place in 2022. It's the next, there's been stages in humankind. One was to recognize that races are equal, then abolish slavery, then recognize that gay rights, women rights, rights to vote. For us, the next step is violence, is to eradicate violence. There's no reason why human beings should be violent. So having violence in your work environment is something that should be completely abolished. And I think that, so we pioneered in that place, but I think companies are going to pay more and more attention to the fact that they cannot afford to have, hostility among their companies. So 3 things. The employee-friendly context, the professional growth, and the non-violence.
I love that. Thank you very much. Those are all unique attributes that you added. So thanks for sharing that with me and the audience as well. So let's say your typical, we'd love to hear, your B2B, you help all sizes of companies, I'm sure, from SaaS companies all the way up to a company like Facebook you mentioned. So those people are listening right now. Could you speak to, what pain points are they experiencing, or would they experience one day, which would make sense for them to reach out to you? Like if company X is having this problem, they should check you out. Or if you kind of put it out there and say, hey, if you ever run into this problem, this is why you should check us out, because we could solve, X with Y, so to speak. So please share with us what that looks like.
Yes, of course. The problem we solve is the ability to convert the visitors you get on your website. And what we mean by convert is convert to a meeting. We call it a qualified hell meeting. When people come to your website now, in most cases, they're already educated. They already found out about you. This is not the first time. They come because a friend told them, or they saw it on social network. It's called the dark funnel, that people have talked, and by the time they come to your website, they're ready. So we call that the straight to meeting imperative. And the problem we solve is that most companies have a form, and they get a thank you page, and then somebody has to follow up later, and they lose their prospects, and prospects are busy, they move on to other things. So that's the problem we solve. When we started, I was talking to a chief sales officer, and he says, "Oh, I'm not going to touch that process. I convert at 40%." By that, he meant that 60% asked for a meeting and didn't get a meeting. But that seems like in the past, that seems acceptable, but it's no longer acceptable. So that's a problem we solve. With Chili Piper, when somebody comes to a website and asks for a meeting, our technology is going to check that the person is qualified and using data from the form and other data, and then route to the reps so that you can book a meeting in one click and have that meeting. So we implement that straight to meeting imperative, and we help companies double the inbound conversion rate.
Outstanding. And can you give out your social handles and your website address? That way, people who are listening, they want to find out more, they know where to find you.
Yeah, sure. We are Chili Piper. So Chili Piper is a play on word. It's not pepper, it's Piper. So it's chili like a chili, and Piper, Piper. Chilipiper.com. That's also a social handle. Chili.piper on Instagram, and Chili Piper on Twitter. We're very active on LinkedIn also. So people, if you Google, if you search Chili Piper, you'll find us. And I encourage everybody to come and book a meeting with us, because we use our technology for our web visitors, and you can experience it firsthand.
That's beautiful. With that said, can you sign us off with a one-word close and tell us why you're choosing this specific word that you're about to tell us to sign off with?
Yes, the word I would close with is compassion. And I think that I mentioned nonviolence in our organization. I think right now the world needs a lot of compassion, and that's the word I'd like to close on.
Awesome. Nicolas, thank you very much for this meaningful conversation.
Thank you, Tony.